Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and tonight to look at some creepy stuff indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, a while back I made a video regarding Kane Pixels' Backrooms footage, where I actually looked at one of his very popular videos, the Backrooms found footage 7 months ago. And since then, Kane Pixels, who is a 17-year-old VFX artist by the way, as per they described, they've actually created what is quite possibly one of the most interesting interpretations of the Backrooms. Now, for quick, just filling you in on what the lore is, the Backrooms obviously is an original 4chan post all the way from back in 2018, 2019. This nice little piece of liminal space horror, if you're not careful, you can no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas and end up in the Backrooms. Ladies and gentlemen, whether the Backrooms exists or not is not really up for debate. It probably doesn't, but ladies and gentlemen, the world is a vast array of mysteries. Who knows if I stick my hands through this G Fuel tower that I could land up in the Backrooms. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Backrooms has been sort of interpreted with hundreds of levels, tons of entities, and a lot of it can be purely cringe. For instance, some of my cringiest segments was looking through all this entity list in one of the many Backrooms wikis available. One of these was instantly known as the Facelings, which is a general term for faceless people that roam the back rooms. There's a few photos of them, like this guy, Randy here, I just gave him a random name, just looking at you. Honestly, I'm feeling pretty claustrophobic looking at this. But then, of course, you got David and Martha, who are sitting here in level 11.5. Honest to God, though, aside from the cringy nature, if I actually started seeing people with smudge faces and filters on their face, in reality, I think I would crap myself, to be honest with you. But of course, let's whittle on back to Kane Pixels. Now, Kane Pixels made an amazing first part, and since then he's made tons of extra videos regarding the Backrooms. Videos like Motion Detected, and one of my personal favorites, The Missing Persons. But of course, he's released the Found Footage number 2, which is one that we're going to be looking into because it actually fleshes out the universe of Kane Pixels a little bit more. Obviously, go check out his channel at youtube.com/KanePixels. But of course, I'm going to be taking some choice little snippets out of this to really show you the new advancements in the Kane Pixels Backrooms lore, because it's really pretty good. Now, what I do love the fact about Kane Pixels' recording is he's got a bunch of these like VHS filters, a little bit of blurring, the sort of degradation of 90s like VHS quality brought to our days, and a 4:3 aspect ratio, which really makes it much more believable, given the fact that a lot of these videos are in fact Blender renders, like CGI work. So when you add all these deformations in quality, it just adds it makes it look a little bit more realistic, if you catch my drift, right? Like it cleans out a lot of the tells, if you will, of 3D effects work. Now, the square on the ground is going to be the exact entry point of the back room. So let's see how this works. So for instance, this one tape measure she takes, for instance, puts it right into the actual square where it's actually going to disappear, and it's kind of crazy here. So this tape is now entered the back rooms. Now, because of her discovering the point of the back rooms, she will eventually get sucked in alongside all of the equipment that she has. And of course, this scene here is very similar to what we saw in number 1. And as a quick reminder, no clipping effectively is like in a video game when you get to a point where the collision detection doesn't work and warps you out of the actual map. Most games will call you back into a location, but in general terms, you'll just be floating through an endless space. Now, this interpretation of the Backrooms takes us all the way, of course, in the introduction through these various corridors. What has changed, however, is that the corridors look a little less, I guess you could say, cellular, in the sense that it really seems like 10 prefabs. There is a lot of differing locations, more verticality. There's actual furniture around. There's furniture that is so tall and large that no normal human being is going to be sitting there, which possibly leads to an idea that there might be a slightly larger than average entity. In fact, this one room alone kind of gives me that idea too. They've got like one sofa in the middle, and then this massive room that you can walk around in. That's got pot lights everywhere, like 20 to 30 foot ceiling. You've got a hole in the ground, and of course this one door that when you look through the keyhole of, as our protagonist has done, you can actually spot through what appears to be another transitionary zone. So of course here is where the levels change, and it doesn't seem like you need a staircase for it. One of them is the habitable zone too, so like the closest image is like this, and I guess you can kind of see similarities. We've seen this in the first found footage episode too, but this is us like reliving it once more, so it's a transitionary area to other parts of the back rooms. She wasn't able to access it, so she's going around throughout the initial level that she landed in. One of the interesting things about this clip, though, is when I actually saw like this top ceiling area, right, where you have this massive open section, but there's a window that has light coming through and some shadows, which kind of does imply that there is an outside to this area, one that you may possibly be able to reach. The next real big point of this is like actually noticing that cars can fly right into the back room. So here's like an actual accident. It really seems like this vehicle was driving out on the road and it actually teleported out of nowhere into the back rooms and completely impacted into this wall. Now what's interesting too is like the car completely totaled. However, the wall here has not suffered any damage. So it really shows me that in this universe, if like you were to like, you know, set a satchel charge or anything to try and escape, this is a nearly indestructible place, all right? And, you know, satchel charges are hard to find anyways in this place. So even if you like created explosive almond water or did anything, there's no way to bust out. So like the whole topic of like breaking down the walls, because some people think it's all just drywall. But listen, if a vehicle cannot do a several ton vehicle cannot do anything to this wall, I think the human beings cannot pull anything. Like you're not able to do shit. But of course, whoever was driving this, clearly they are dead. Now, of course, in this last section, our protagonist does in fact come across this overgrown vegetative room where you actually see the entity break out and run after you. Now, let's get a closer look at what this looks like. Oh, there it is. There it is. Is that a good shot that you can get over here? Well, that's about the... Oh, wait. No, you can see the side of it. You can actually see, like, the little arms floating around. Now, this entity, from the closest that we've ever been able to check, though, appears to be the dullers, if you will. And this is, like, the entity number 6 in the back rooms, like, one of the wikis available. This is the closest thing to a duller. But, of course, you can see that the duller in this case has, like, completely, like, fleshed out bodies. This is, like, strings and, like, ribbons chasing you. It looks more like a DNA strand gone wrong. Now, of course... this is the best we're going to get out of it. And one of the things I can appreciate about Kane Pixels is that he will introduce these entities, but because they're obviously like renderings, he's not going to show them to the best of the ability. So it just adds to more illusion. Like if you can't get a good glimpse of it and you're running away from it, that just adds to the fear. I wish like actual real found footage productions did this, all right? Like, it's surprising that a 17-year-old has made better found footage movies than almost anybody has ever produced in, like, the history of, like, filmmaking. Now, of course, here we are in the pool rooms, the final location. You can see by the stillness of the water, at least I can kind of see the sort of CG work. But of course, going up to this ladder over here, this is the end of the pool rooms, and shortly after this, the story does end. So let's go back and recap. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, these are some choice snippets I wanted to take out of it. I really wanted you to sort of like get through. It is highly recommended you jump in and watch all of Kane Pixels' work throughout here because the pacing, the tone, and just the general exploration is a vibe to experience all on your own. Seriously, turn the lights down, get the volume up, and enjoy it for yourself. But of course, to compare it to the Backrooms lore as well too, I like Kane's approach of kind of like being hesitant, like he's holding his hand for sure. I will say the ending for this and the transportation and all of this, like teleporting it seems, or like, you know, just all you can say, it's a little bit too much because I think like a lot of the horror when it comes to the Backrooms is literally because of just how, like, it's the perfect example of less is more. And that's one of the things that I've come to appreciate with anything. Like, one of the reasons why I can't get into the crazy amounts of various levels that you can find in, like, all of these Backrooms pieces is because the more you have, the more lore you provide something, the less mysterious it ends up becoming. So it's one of the things where I like his series and a lot of other people's series as well too. Like, it's not just him doing it. There's also a channel known as Async Research that is making their own Backroom series heavily inspired by Kane Pixels as well too. So they've got their own things where they even cover upon like different areas of the Backrooms, different levels, and of course they've got their own encounters and their own systems. It's one thing to look for sure, especially if you want more Backrooms content. But again, these are just various channels putting their own interpretation on the most well-known level of the Backrooms. Now, a lot of this stuff is made through, backroom map generator files that you can find all around GitHub. Like, one of the projects is made by Albert DeYoung YT, who's actually made one of their own Blender scripts to create Backrooms Maps. So you create them in Blender, you modify and basically create a sort of script where you make a camera follow through in Unity, I believe, or in Blender, if you will, and you just add shake to it. You then edit in post-process effects to make it look like VHS footage to give it more believability, and that's how people are making found footage backrooms, just pieces. You can see a lot of this stuff all over TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, even Shorts. People are uploading this like crazy, and it definitely does get a lot of traction because, hey, it is really good found footage stuff. I think, honestly, the less is more mentality and the fact that some people are making some pretty good pieces out of this just adds to, like, a level of horror that I'm glad to see come back. Look, I love found footage movies. I really do. And to see Kane Pixels and various people working on this and utilizing, something as, I guess you could say, as vague as the Backrooms has led to probably one of the best combinations I've seen on the internet. And as always, it brings me back to my favorite pieces of liminal spaces all over on the internet. Beyond just Kane Pixel's work, you can find tons of people posting their real-life examples of liminal spaces. One of the simpler ones is this in a hospital. Hospitals, by the way, are the best liminal spaces anybody can find. This is like one Chicago office space somebody posted, which itself is an absolute liminal. Like this, I can absolutely believe walking around here, something will just fly out and come at me. I could literally imagine a crow burst through the window and chase after me. It's absolutely spooky shit. One of them is this one. This is like actually my favorite one. This actually inspires some like straight up fear. Like this is like on a quest to find a patient's medical record. So they built a new location of the hospital, and like these are some photos from it. So like this itself, the fact that you're all alone here and the lights are all on is one of the things that absolutely makes me fearful. Like usually a place that only has like one person, the lights should not be on, but here it's completely lit up. And of course, almost completely empty. Like they're walking around this area, like look at it, okay? Like even if like some of the lights are on, it's so clean. So like this looks like NVIDIA RTX footage, like, like they're showing off their ray tracing technology. This is what it literally feels like. It's downright spooky. I almost feel like this is CGI and not even a real hospital. And of course, here's another piece. You've got like the entire waiting room, super clean. You could almost smell that like, septic-y smell that you find in like hospitals from time to time. Now, this footage number 2 is pretty decent from my perspective, like from what I've been looking into it and from the lore that I've been following. And, the more and more lore that gets added to it, the hesitant I can somewhat see becoming. Because for me, a lot of this stuff is less is more, like that's sort of the phrase for today. But looking into it, I'm glad that Kane Pixels expanded upon like what is the Backrooms in this, like actually showcased how the transitions work nearly instantaneously. And it is interesting to see just the level of things that are suddenly like sent in, whether it be full-on vehicles, people from different parts of the world, and looking at the furniture and just generally seeing much more design work going on in level 0. I know the first time we just walked around empty corridors, but here there was much more focuses on like grand locations, places with levels completely missing, more general like decay, if you will, around the back rooms. That is something I absolutely love to see in this entire story. And seeing the actual like critter at the end, the actual entity, and not getting a good glimpse of it was an absolute terrific, and I mean brilliant choice in this. I think in the first one I like frame by framed it, which I was pointing out all the fallacies. Here there wasn't anything to point out, but what was there was the entire footage, was that entire found footage horror. As somebody that's a fan of it, I'm glad to see it come back in such an amazing style. And I would love if you could all go up and check out Kane Pixels' amazing series for yourselves. Completely endorsed. I absolutely love this creator, and I absolutely love what this person has done with the Backrooms. And honestly, I'll be glad to see what this person does with other pieces of media, or their own special built-in piece of media themselves too, their own lore, if you will. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mudahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.